Alysa Liu just made history. And honestly, the way it happened makes it even more incredible. A 20-year-old American figure skater walked into the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. And she didn't just compete. She dominated. She inspired. She rewrote the record books in a way that nobody had done in over 2 decades. And right now, as she returns home to the United States draped in gold, the entire sports world is trying to process just how significant this moment really is. So let's break it all down, because this story deserves every single second of your attention. To truly understand what Alysa Liu just accomplished, you have to go back. You have to understand the weight of what she was carrying into those games, the history she was up against, and the pressure that comes with representing an entire nation on the biggest sporting stage in the world. The Winter Olympics only come around every 4 years. Every skater trains for years, sometimes their entire lives, for just a few minutes on the ice. One mistake, one shaky landing, one moment of hesitation, and it can all fall apart in an instant. That's the reality of figure skating at the Olympic level. It is brutal, it is unforgiving, and it demands absolute perfection under the most intense spotlight imaginable. Alysa Liu first burst onto the scene as a teenager, and even then, people knew she was different. There was something about the way she moved on the ice. The way she attacked jumps that skaters years older than her were afraid to attempt. The way she performed with a confidence that didn't match her age at all. She became the youngest U.S. figure skating champion in history when she first won that title, and she did it in a way that made everyone stop and pay attention. This wasn't just a young talent with potential. This was a generational athlete making her presence known from day one. But talent alone doesn't guarantee Olympic glory. The path from promising young skater to Olympic champion is filled with obstacles that have ended the careers of countless athletes who had all the ability in the world. Injuries, mental blocks, the relentless pressure of expectations, the politics of competitive figure skating, the gap between being great and being the best in the world at the exact right moment. So many skaters have everything it takes on paper and still come up short when it matters most. That's what makes what Alysa Liu did in Milan so extraordinary. These were her second Winter Olympics. Her first trip to the Games gave her a taste of that experience, that atmosphere, that unmatched energy of competing when the entire world is watching. And she carried every lesson from that experience into Milan. She arrived in Italy not as a nervous kid hoping for the best. She arrived as the reigning world figure skating champion. As one of the most decorated American skaters of her generation, and as someone who had already proven she could handle the biggest moments. The question wasn't whether she belonged there. The question was just how far she could go. And the answer turned out to be all the way to the top. The team competition came first, and this is something that often gets overlooked when people talk about figure skating at the Olympics. The team event brings together skaters from across the disciplines, men's singles, women's singles, pairs, and ice dance, and combines their skills to crown an overall team champion. It is a different kind of pressure because now it's not just about you, it's about your teammates, it's about your country. Every point matters, every performance feeds into the total, and the margin between gold and silver can come down to the smallest details. Alysa Liu stepped into that environment and delivered exactly when Team USA needed her most. Her performance in the team competition was a statement. It was her telling the rest of the world that she hadn't come to Milan just to participate. She had come to win. And Team USA did win. They took gold in the team competition, and Liu's contribution was central to that victory. But here's the thing. For Liu personally, that was just the beginning. Because the individual singles event was still to come, and that's where the real history was waiting to be written. The women's singles competition in figure skating is one of the most watched events of the entire Winter Olympics. It draws audiences from around the world, people who don't follow skating at any other point in the 4-year cycle, but who tune in specifically for this. The combination of athleticism, artistry, music, and drama creates something that is genuinely unlike any other sporting event. And when the best skaters in the world are all competing at their absolute peak, the level of skating you witness is almost incomprehensible. Jumps that seem to defy physics, spins that blur the line between human and something else entirely. Programs choreographed to tell stories, to evoke emotions, to connect with every single person watching both inside the arena and at home. Alysa Liu went out there and put together performances that left no doubt. She skated clean. She skated with power. She skated with the kind of emotional depth that separates good skaters from truly great ones. When the scores were announced and the standings were finalized, Liu stood at the top. Olympic gold in the individual women's singles competition. The crowd inside the arena erupted. Her coaches erupted. Her teammates erupted. And watching from home, millions of Americans who had stayed up late or woken up early to watch finally exhaled after holding their breath for what felt like an eternity. But the real magnitude of the moment only hits you when you put it in historical context. The last time an American ice skater won individual Olympic gold was 2002. That was Sarah Hughes at the Salt Lake City Games, delivering one of the most shocking and memorable performances in Olympic figure skating history. Hughes was an underdog who skated the program of her life and stole the gold right out from under the favorites. It was a legendary moment, and for 24 years, no American had been able to follow it up at the Olympic level. Generation after generation of talented American skaters had come close, had medaled, had represented their country with pride, but the individual gold had remained out of reach until now. Until Alysa Liu in Milan. She put an end to that 24-year wait in the most dominant fashion possible. 2 gold medals. That's what she brought home. 1 for the team competition and 1 for the individual event. A 20-year-old who is now a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. Let that sink in for a moment. She is 20 years old. She has her entire career ahead of her. And she has already accomplished something that most professional athletes spend their entire lives chasing without ever reaching. The celebration in Milan was everything you would expect. Liu soaked in every moment of it. She stood on the podium with her gold medals, she took in the applause, she shared the joy with her teammates and coaches, and before leaving the city behind, she made one more stop that quickly became a talking point across social media. She visited the Samsung House, which is located inside the historic Palazzo Serbelloni in Milan, one of the most beautiful and iconic buildings in the city. Liu is part of Team Samsung Galaxy, the group of Samsung-sponsored athletes who competed at these games, and stopping by the Samsung House felt like the perfect way to close out her time in Milan. She shared photos on social media, and the reaction was immediate. The official Olympics account commented on her post, and the words they chose said everything about how the world now sees Alysa Liu. They called it iconic. They addressed her as Your Highness, and honestly, after what she just did in those games, it's hard to think of a more fitting title. She carried herself throughout those Olympics with the grace and presence of someone who understood the moment and rose to meet it completely. Back home in the United States, the reception has been exactly what you'd expect for a double Olympic gold medalist coming off the performance of a lifetime. Liu has seen her popularity skyrocket in a way that even successful Olympic athletes don't always experience. Figure skating has always had a unique ability to create mainstream stars, athletes who cross over from the sports world into popular culture in a way that transcends competition. And Alysa Liu is clearly on that path right now. The attention she is receiving goes far beyond the skating community. She is becoming a household name in the truest sense of the phrase. This past week alone, she made guest appearances on not just 1 but 2 iconic television shows. Think about what that represents. Within days of returning home from the Olympics, she is already being welcomed into spaces that most athletes never get to enter regardless of how successful they are. Television appearances of that nature speak to a cultural relevance that you simply cannot manufacture. It has to be earned, and Liu earned it in Milan in front of the entire world. The endorsements will follow. The magazine covers will follow. The documentary deals and the brand partnerships and all of the things that come with being a genuine Olympic superstar, all of that is either already happening or is on its way. And Liu is handling all of it while still being only 20 years old. That maturity, that ability to embrace the spotlight without being consumed by it, is another quality that separates truly great athletes from everyone else. Some people shrink when the moment gets too big. Alysa Liu gets bigger along with the moment. But here is the thing that makes this story even more compelling going forward. The celebration is real, the fame is real, the cultural moment is real, and none of it is going to slow her down on the ice. Because Alysa Liu is not just a great Olympic story, she is also the reigning world figure skating champion. And that title, just like an Olympic gold medal, has to be defended. The 2026 World Figure Skating Championships are coming up fast, scheduled for March 24th through the 29th in Prague, Czech Republic. And Liu will be there, competing against the best skaters in the world, with a target on her back that is bigger than it has ever been before. That's how the competitive world works. When you reach the top, everyone is gunning for you. Every skater who steps onto that ice in Prague will be looking at Liu and thinking about what it would mean to knock off the Olympic champion, to take the world title away from the woman who just dominated the biggest stage in the sport. The pressure will be immense. The expectations will be sky high. And Alysa Liu will have to deliver all over again, this time without the element of surprise, this time as the undisputed face of American figure skating and one of the biggest names in the sport globally. And based on everything we have seen from her, based on the way she has handled pressure throughout her entire career, based on what she just did in Milan, there is every reason to believe she will rise to that challenge too. This is an athlete who seems to get better the higher the stakes get. She doesn't run from pressure, she runs toward it. She feeds off the weight of the moment rather than being crushed by it. That is an incredibly rare quality, and it is a big part of why she is standing where she is right now. The 2026 World Championships in Prague are going to be must-watch television for figure skating fans and casual sports fans alike. The storyline writes itself. The double Olympic gold medalist, the reigning world champion, returning to defend her title just weeks after conquering the Olympics. It doesn't get more compelling than that. Prague is going to be electric, and Alysa Liu is going to be right at the center of all of it. So where does this all leave us? It leaves us watching the rise of one of the most exciting athletes in American sports right now. A young woman who has already accomplished more than most skaters twice her age, who carries herself with a poise and confidence that makes you believe the best is genuinely still ahead of her. The 2026 Milan Cortina Olympics will be remembered for many things, but one of the defining images of those games is going to be Alysa Liu standing on top of the podium with gold around her neck, having ended a 24-year drought for American figure skating in the most complete and dominant way possible. She is 20 years old. She has 2 Olympic gold medals. She is the world champion. And she is just getting started. Whatever comes next for Alysa Liu, one thing is absolutely certain. The world is going to be watching.